This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Safari Live. My name is Lee Fuller. Behind me on camera this afternoon, my good friend BK. It's a warm welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. It is warm because it's 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere. And on my way out here, I left camp a few minutes ago. The impala were all sort of still huddled into the shade. It's still a bit warm before they feel like getting going. Usually, as the day cools off now, we'll expect to find them a bit more active. But as I said, we're in Djuma Private Game Reserve, part of an enormous conservation area, the heart of which is the Kruger National Park. The boundary extends over the Mozambican border into Mozambique, and we're on the western edge in these privately owned areas. And we are going to be this afternoon trying to follow up on our female leopard Thandi for you. We had her this morning. James had her in fine style, quite hungry, giving us lots of a run around in terms of trying to look for food. She had a few attempted hunts, failed attempts. James then very kindly took out a few members of the crew after breakfast, and he told me exactly where he left her, and it's not far below the dam cam in the drainage line to my right here. And in all likelihood, if she hasn't managed to find something today, she might, if we are able to find her, give us a bit of a show and continue her hunting prowess this afternoon. So, without further ado, we're going to keep driving and go back to the area where they last left Thandi. Leopards are ever the opportunists. So even in the middle of a hot day like today, if an opportunity presents itself, they'll grab it with all four paws. Usually, however, they'll be more successful hunting after dark. So while we head off and go and try and follow up on Thandi, over to Jamie. She wants to say hi.
Good luck, Lee. I hope you manage to find her. A very good afternoon to you all, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon, behind the camera, being eagerly directed by Gendre, is Owen, who is here to interview as a cameraman. So he's potentially going to be freelancing with us. He's going to be interviewing, so please be kind. Please don't be horrible at all. It is a very different thing that we do, but Owen's got plenty of experience in terms of camera work. So welcome, Owen, and let us see what we can accomplish this afternoon. I have no plans at all. I'm going to be as opportunistic as a leopard hunting. Lee's just been describing Thandi's approach to searching for food. That's going to be my approach to searching for animals this afternoon. We're just going to bumble along and enjoy whatever it is that we happen to encounter. I'm going to cruise all the way down the western edge of Djuma. Welcome to William, who is a new viewer. William, it's lovely to have you on board with us. Most people describe this as their Safari Live addiction. I can't speak one way or another because I'm employed and paid to do this. But you want to know which country we're in. We are in South Africa, and to be more specific, we're in the sort of northeastern corner of South Africa. There is a huge reserve known as the Greater Kruger National Park, and we fall into part of the Greater Kruger National Park. The Kruger National Park's a government-run reserve, and on the boundary of the Kruger National Park, there are several different private reserves that are open to it, creating an absolutely massive wilderness area that's larger than some states and actually larger than some countries as well. So we're in a little place called Djuma, which is right in the sort of the heart of the, which way is that? Western side of the Kruger National Park. The western fringes, one might even be tempted to describe it as. So welcome, William. I hope you enjoy. Remember, well, you've just done this, but remember to keep sending through your questions. You can do that on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or in the comments section of YouTube. And let us see what we can find. South Africa, of course, unbiased, a truly magical place with many different beautiful spots, but I just happen to think that this is the best part of South Africa, me personally. Been living here for many years, so perhaps I am biased, but it comes with lions and leopards and elephants and anything really that a girl could want. It's not just Lee and myself out on this nice warm afternoon. I'm sure that Colleen is really truly enjoying the sunshine and the temperatures. Let's go and find out whether he's started to sweat yet.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It depends on your area code. So my name is Colleen, and joining us behind the camera is Craigie. And guess what? We have Herbivore. Herbivore is a game scout. Herbivore. Yes. So welcome to the Bushwalk. Our plan for now, it's simple. We are following up on Shadaloo's tracks. Shadaloo is a female leopard that roams around the western flanks of the reserve. Hopefully she's still around, because in the morning they saw her tracks, and then she might be out of the reserve, or she might be inside here, but we are praying, we are crossing fingers that she's still around, because I haven't seen Shadaloo before. And then it will be so phenomenal if I can see Shadaloo on foot. So also Hukumuri, the hawk, stays around the area. So I'll also be looking for all these sorts of little things around here, but for now, while I'm still searching for all the pretty things, let's go to Lee on the other side.
So we're driving very slowly along this drainage line. A drainage line off to my right is a dry riverbed. It doesn't have any water in it now, but seasonally, after rains, certainly there will be water flowing. They are areas that are characterized by thicker bush from a vegetation point of view. Usually the steeper sides make for quite a nice, what we'd call in this country, a donga, or a little ravine or rivulet. And the thicker bush on the side of these drainage lines, ideal leopard habitat, usually a little bit more shade. Certainly Thandi, when they left her kind of mid-morning, I think would have been heading into an area like this. Usually leopards are on the opposite 12-hour clock to us, so they have been resting all day and usually start to wake up now. I say usually, you know, nocturnal is quite a strong word, especially when you are referring to leopards. Nocturnal means night active, but we do very often see leopards active during the day. Kind of that activity is usually governed by their stomachs. So a hungry leopard might be up and about during the day looking for food a little bit more regularly. They do, however, have far better hunting success rates after dark, and they use the cover of darkness to their advantage. They have fantastic night vision. Do leopards, in fact, so do lions. And even though we can see them up and about during the day if they really are hungry, usually they would spend the warmer daylight hours resting, sleeping. They would spend a fair amount of time grooming, very typical of cats. They kind of besotted with staying clean. So this area in front of us here is the kind of perfect leopard habitat, and that's what we refer to when we talk about a drainage line. Susan, what would happen if Shadaloo came across Columba? Well, usually female leopards do tolerate one another. They'll have home ranges, and those home ranges, on the edge of that home range, will be a fair amount of overlap, and usually they'd avoid each other. They are very solitary animals, and they'd avoid each other either by sound or smell, and they would very seldom actually come nose to nose. So that area of overlap, that area of tolerance on the edge of their territories, we see them sort of bypassing each other without really giving each other too much of a second glance. So, let's carry on our search here. We're going to look down below us, some lovely big shady trees. Leopards can sleep in the top of the trees, and quite often they'll, even without a carcass hoisted, they'll enjoy the breezes that come from 360 degrees around them. Also a wonderful view. But they can also sleep and rest in the bottom, on the ground here, in this shade. This time of year, especially with the bush changing colors, so the trees losing their leaves and the grass turning brown, can be a little harder to spot leopards. Watch the branches here, BK. We're going to carry on looking here, and you're going to head over and rejoin Jamie.
It's amazing how quickly the colors did change. Okay, this is admittedly the wrong area to have brought up this subject, but I'm just building off what Lee said. This particular area is filled with trees known as guarri bushes, and they stay green throughout the year, so it was a bad spot to have chosen to talk about it. But I really feel as though the trees changed color in the Sabi that must be from this morning. In the space of around about 2 days. When I arrived back at work, it was still pretty green, and then all of a sudden it turned yellow, and it felt like it happened overnight, and there are just leaves everywhere. The reason I stopped talking halfway through that sentence is because there's lion tracks here, but I did pick up on the lion roars this morning, and it sounded like they were on Buffelshoek, so I'm not going to waste any time tracking them. Those tracks are old. They're from last night or early this morning. So the lions are already on Buffelshoek, which is a property to the north of us where we cannot go. So that's where they're hiding out, I imagine. I hope that wherever they are, they're back together again. And when I saw the Nkuhumas, was it yesterday? It was. Jeepers. It feels like half a lifetime ago, but yesterday morning, when I saw them, it was only 6 females. And they were missing some of their number, including the 2 young males, the Nkuhuma male and the Mangeni male. So I'm hoping that wherever they happen to be, they're reunited once again. And they could have become separated for all sorts of reasons, but I mentioned yesterday I suspect the Avoca had something to do with it. There was something about his roar, not yesterday, but the day before. There was something about his roar that was hyped up. It's the only way I can really put it. So I suspect that lioness that was separated, she found her way back to the pride. I think he had something to do with that. But I'm hoping they're reunited once again. Looking at these tracks, it looks as though there's a male with them. But it doesn't necessarily, tell us which one it was. Oh, it's windy. Winter winds. I think there's something coming. I think there's a cold front on its way. And it's been so lovely and warm. And they came from the... Let me just have a proper look quickly. Let's see if we can... Oh, it's a yucky spot I've picked, but it's the only place I haven't driven over them. There's lion tracks here, and there might even be leopard tracks. Hang on. I'm just going to have a look quickly. I'm just going to jump out. Lion tracks. These are very small tracks. Very small tracks. This is a lion track here. Can you see that there, Owen? Over there. That's the lion track. The back of the foot is here. The toes are here. Pretty unmistakable size. That's the size of the lion track. This is not a lion track. This looks like it might be a leopard track. A female leopard track as well. Here we go. I mean, in terms of comparison of size, they are worlds apart, and there's no cubs with any of the lions. I mean, that track for a lion cub, that lion cub would be 2 months old. And we know that there aren't any 2-month-old lion cubs. So I'm actually quite glad I pulled over. I would have dismissed those as lion tracks if I hadn't been watching carefully, which means I can also help Colleen out with his whole tracking deal. There's another track here, going that way. Now, which one's fresher? So the way that we go about that is we look at the tracks of the nocturnal animals. It's one of the reasons why it's important to know the tracks of nocturnal animals, like this genet that's walked next to it. None of them fall on top of the tracks going this way. That's weird. I think we might need to get Herbie in here to analyze this. I think she came through, had a sniff of Tundi's kill, and walked back almost exactly the same way that she came out. Now, typically when female leopards do that, I'm just going to check one thing, and it's going to mean I'm going to go right behind the car, so I'm sorry. Give me one moment. It's going to make life very difficult. I just want to check here. She walked. Now, often when leopards do that, it means they're not on a territorial patrol. It means that they've made a kill, and they've gone back to fetch cubs. I mean, that's not a guarantee, obviously, but it's unusual for a leopard to waste energy to walk in one direction and then walk all the way back. So I'm just going to call Herbie for a second. Herbie. Dumela. Herbs, there's tracks here for female leopard coming towards, or a sort of east along power lines and west at the junction with Impala Road. I'm sure it's her. It's her in capital letters. Hey, it's windy today, M4. Ones look very fresh. Copy. Thanks, Herbs. I'm going to go check Triple M. I'm not going to drive over your tracks, though. Thanks, M4. Right. I'm going to go loop around. While I do that, we've been talking a little bit about Bushwalk and the fact that we're going to help them out a little bit. Let's go and see what Colleen has just somewhere over there. Somewhere.
Yes, I found something interesting here. If you can look at this, it's a nest, and this nest is not functional anymore because the owners left this nest. But what attracted me to this nest is that if you can see how it's well constructed in this thorn tree. And this nest belongs to a bird called blue waxbills, and then this thorn tree is called a knobthorn tree. Blue waxbills are brown and blue in color, so they don't camouflage in this habitat. So what they do is they will construct their nest in these thorn trees to avoid predators. And if you can check these vicious thorns, they will deal with the predator trying to climb here. And this tree is easily recognized. You can see on the branches there, all over its body, it has thorns. So that simply means this bird is, you can say it's intelligent. So what they do is they use this grass called bluegrass. Very soft grass and very easy to maintain. Then they build this ball nest. It's round with an entrance. Awesome, hey? And we saw tracks, lion tracks, but Hebi said they've split, and then this male and female track, they go together. Then Hebi thought maybe it's a mating pair. Who knows, we might find them. Because some, they said they're in Bethelshoek, but maybe they're busy there. So I'll be moving away from this tree. Yeah. Magic dragon wizard. I nearly poked my eye with this thorny branch here, but I'm safe. So I will be walking. And it's so nice to walk because you see all these small little things that we hardly see when we're driving. And that's how I enjoy bushwalk, because if you can check how this ecosystem interacts with each other or with one another, it's so amazing, because without insects we won't have plants or grasses, and without grasses we won't have insects. Oh, we have something interesting here, Craigie. Come this side. And I've seen these ants, but I don't know their name. If you know their name, please send that to #SafariLive on Twitter or YouTube chat stream. So while I'm looking at these ants and trying to figure out their name, and I'm waiting for your help, let's go to Lee and see what he's up to.
Nice one, Colleen. Yeah, walks are certainly enjoyable, but so are drives. I do agree with Jamie. I think there's some weather on its way. This cloud has rolled in very suddenly. So when we left camp, gosh, half an hour ago, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and these clouds have rolled in, and there is a wind. I wouldn't say the wind is howling, but it's definitely the strongest wind that I've experienced here at Djuma in the last 9 or 10 days or so, which is an indication potentially of some weather inbound. Of course, with all our modern weather apps, we just, at the tip of our fingers, have exactly what the weather's going to do, with a varying degrees of accuracy. Of course, I always enjoy working with the local people, be it the Bushmen in Botswana and the Kalahari, the Shangaan people from here, the Zulu people from where I lived, and there's always one or two, usually an elderly man, who is 100% more reliable than the weather apps. Used to work with a guy called Patrick Magosa, and we grew up on a cattle ranch, and his job was a tractor driver. And that was in the days before there were any weather apps, and Dad would make us all be quiet as we watched the 7 o'clock news every night. And at the end of the news, the weatherman came on and did his thing, and he'd say, well, this is the X percentage of X millimeters of rain that's going to fall tomorrow. And Dad would say, Patrick said it was going to be clear tomorrow. And anyway, old Patrick Magoso, he was right the vast majority of the time. And I think, as I'm not knocking technology for 1 second, but we have become a little lazier nowadays. Things like reading maps. We all used to have map books, and we used to study the map and work out our route before we went anywhere. Nowadays, we have Google Maps on our phones shouting at us at every turn and every corner. And we're involved with kids doing adventure education and outdoor education, and we do teach the kids how to use maps and compasses the old school way. I mean, GPSs are fantastic, as your phones are, but batteries go flat, and they can also lead you on a bit of a wild goose chase, can a GPS. We're still on the lookout for Tundi, and we've kind of gone around this drainage line. We've checked the other side of it, we've checked below now, and we're going to check this side of it. And here's a little red-billed hornbill. Is he also going to help us check for Tundi? I don't think so. He's got much better things to do, like look for termites and ants or other insects that might feature on his high tea menu. Red-billed hornbill, very busy busy birds running backwards and forwards. Oh, he got something there. I can't see what he got. Something a bit bigger. That took 2 gulps. They'll investigate a lot of insect activity on the ground, will hornbills. And I think he's going to disappear over that ridge. Yes. There he goes. Nice to see the red-billed hornbill. C-Max has asked a question. What is the most common nest found in the bush? Well, C-Max, I would have to say it would probably be a Cape turtle dove or ring-necked dove. They think the most common widely distributed bird in southern and east Africa. In terms of numbers, however, the red-billed quelea, numbers-wise, get into bigger flocks, and there are more of them. In terms of biomass, there are more red-billed queleas than any other birds, but they nest in colonies, in big colonies of tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of individuals. And certainly if you bumped into a red-billed quelea colony, that would be the most common nest. But that is an interesting question. I suppose the turtle doves would make the most common, well, cup nest, what we would, if you think of a nest, if you close your eyes and think nest, you think the little cup-shaped, teacup-shaped pile of sticks with grass inside. But of course there are a variety of nests, including holes in riverbanks and holes in trees and some holes in the ground as well. So while we continue looking for Tundi down here, you're going to head back to Jamie, who has some news for you.
I do have some news. I have some really very sad news, and it seems very ill-fitting that I'm about to deliver it on Triple M. So perhaps a little bit later, when we watch the sun go down, we'll just have a little quiet moment. I hate having to do this, but I'm just going to rip the plaster off. The oldest Nkuhuma lioness is dead. Scarhip has been found dead on Londolozi, and it's probably around about 2 days old. So essentially what we were discussing before has proved to be most likely correct. She was old. She was really, really old. I think at this point she was, what is she? She was 11 or so. Still had potentially a few years left in her. But with that injury, she'd been losing condition on and on and on. The good news, just to let you know, is that both of the males are okay. They're there as well. They're just lying quite close to her body. And one of the sub-adult Nkuhumas is mating with one of the evokers. So we've sort of had a full rite of passage. This is our first time knowing that the Nkuhuma's cubs have reached the point that they are now 3 years old and ready to mate. It's a bit of a rite of passage for them. But I'm actually quite devastated that Scarhip has died. I mean, I had a feeling it was coming. I actually said to James this morning, I have a feeling we've seen her for the last time. I'm really, really sad. I should be checking for Shadaloo's track so I don't waste Herbie's time, but I'm little bit distracted. I have a lot of amazing memories attached to that lioness. When the chaos of the Birmingham boys hit in 2015, she was the one who led her sub-adults away and disappeared off towards Simbambili. She was always the one who, when there was chaos with males, separated and kept the youngsters safe. I remember her vividly with the middle group of cubs in 2016 when they started to breed once again. And I'm really sad. I'm really, really sad. I was really rooting for her. And I knew this day was coming. And we all know it's part of the natural way of things. So, there's nothing untoward in her death, but you're allowed to be sad without being angry about it. No, we don't know what the cause of death was, and to speculate would be silly. I have my own feelings about what happened, but I'll only get into trouble for saying them, so not from anyone at work, but just people will take offense to the fact that I have my suspicions. I really feel as though there was a fight, and I think she got caught in the crossfire on Londo's, but we have no evidence of that, no proof of that. I have pictures of her, but I'm not going to show them to you because she doesn't need to be remembered that way. It's not necessary. There's nothing particularly revealing about them. You can see that it's her with her big injury on her hip, and there's no sign of bite marks or anything like that. She was looking, to my mind, better when I last saw her, but let's face it, she'd been losing condition. She'd been thin and limpy, and that wound was just not healing. And I think it's just the natural process of things. But it's quite sad. It's very sad. I'm just listening to Herbie for a second. Never mind. Something smells funny here. Sorry, just give me 1 second, guys. I know this is a really momentous moment, but life carries on and there's a lot of talking happening in my ear. Oh, shh. All right, never mind. I give up. Sorry, people are being chatty. What were we talking about? What was Ilana's question? Sorry. I'm irritable now. I think it's just sad. Oh, Ilana wants to know whether or not any of the sub-adults were her cubs. Yes. She actually had 2 sub-adults, 1 male, 1 female. The male was the only remaining male. And she'd done a marvelous job with him. I mean, he was looking healthy, and she was always, interestingly, always the most, to my mind, accepting of the lionesses. Oh, what am I talking? Yes, of the lionesses. She was always the one that approached the Mangeni male. And I wondered to myself at the time whether or not she knew that it meant support for her son when he disperses. I mean, that really is taking things to perhaps a ridiculous level. But I did wonder. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to be the bearer of that news. I think a lot of you are going to feel the way I do. It's just sad. Okay. I'm going to sit here and feel very sad for a little bit. While I do, off you pop across to Lee, who I'm sure is going to do his best to cheer everyone up.
So just above there. Yeah, really sad news. Not good to hear that at all. But on a more positive note, we have a pretty bird hiding behind some branches. It's a magpie shrike, or long-tailed shrike. And the wind is really picking up now. In this same tree were a whole lot of its family members. Oh, look there.
Herbie.
Hiding. Look at that. You can appreciate the wind now. The hairstyle of the grey go-away bird getting blown all over the show. It is exactly the same colour as this tree. Obviously trying to hide inside there to get out of the wind. But it's mohawk crest blowing in the wind. You can really appreciate how strong the wind is blowing now.
Okay, copy. There's nothing on Power Lines Road. Is there any way you want me to check?
Grey go-away bird. A fairly dull grey bird. He's grey from the tip of his beak to the tip of his tail.
Copy.
But where are you now?
Not a colour in sight on the grey go-away bird. Oh,
Direction will help you to find this.
but you still are beautiful. That is a really cool hairstyle, I think. So if you don't have bright colours, you can have a cool hairstyle, especially in the wind. And you can also have a really cool call if you don't have bright colours. The grey go-away bird is named from an onomatopoeic point of view after his call. Go away. Go away. The early hunters would have named him that. He would have squawked at the hunters, giving them away, shouting, "Go away," and all the other animals would be alerted to that. So that's its contact call as well as an alarm call when it feels a bit threatened. Quite nicely protected. Look at all the thorns surrounding it there. It's well protected in its little cove or cage that it's made for itself almost. Oh, the wind is blowing dust everywhere now. So no sign of Tundi where we are. We're on the dam wall of Vuyatela Dam. The dam cam is just to our left. And we are going to be leaving this area. I think we might, towards the end of drive, pop back down here. There's a chance that she could become a little more active as the afternoon cools off. Cool, so we are going to head on a little bit and go and see what else we can find. Quite often, wind, I have found over the years, is the single biggest climatic influencing factor on game viewing. And I don't want to paint a picture of doom and gloom, but generally we saw less on windier days. For whatever reasons, the animals are a bit more skittish. This wind will not only make a noise inside the earlobes themselves, so the wind actually bypassing the ears will make a noise, but it's also the noise that the leaves and the branches of the trees make and the grass make. So generally the prey species are a little more nervous, they're a little more jumpy, they can't hear the approach of a predator as easily as they normally would. And we're going to carry on driving now, and you're going to head down and join Colleen on foot.
Yes, we are still here on foot, and we are lucky to see there's slightly fresh tracks of a leopard. You can see these two tracks here. A leopard track. We have a hind foot and a front foot. This one, it's a front one because it's slightly broader and bigger than this one. This one is slightly small. It simply means it's a hind foot. And looking at these tracks, they came from the east, and then they went west, and then she turned again to the east. Then we saw tracks of a kudu running, and Heavy said he thinks that the lady's hunting, because some of the tracks, they not far from us, they look as if she was stalking. So it simply means she might be hungry. So telling you about these tracks, going back to them, because we also have lion tracks here. I will show you the different in terms of sizes. You can see this one is the front one, and the female leopards, they tend to have like 8 centimeter track, and then a lion will have about 14 centimeters. And coming to this track over here, a lion track, Craig. Oh, let me watch the antenna there. We have a track here, a lion track, and compare the size. This one is huge when you compare the size there. This is a lion track, and it's easily identified by the lobes. It tells us it's a cat, and the sizes can tell you whether it's a female or male, left or front, hind or front. You can tell also the behavior of the animal just by looking at these tracks. It can tell you whether the animal is running or sick, because when it's sick it will drag maybe a tail, or it will like drag, not the tail, the feet. Or sometimes when they walk, lions, they do this. When they are limping, you will see something like these markings, and then you will see a track here. Then that's how you tell whether this animal was struggling to walk. Interesting. We might find this cat. Who knows? So Heavy still searching, still tracking, because the substrate is not good for us. And the other thing that's problematic, it's the wind. It keeps on making these tracks look very old and difficult. Sinek wants to know, is there any news on Tingana? Sinek, I haven't heard anything about Tingana. Let's come here, and I want to show you something here. Yes, we have a track. Craigie, come in and look here. This is in this area here. Look how difficult the substrate is. We have a track here. It's a leopard. It's this one, Heavy, and the team is following. You can see the lobes here. 1, 2, 3. Let me take a stick and draw this track for you. It has registered here because it simply means it was trying to stalk a prey. 1 and 2. A little bit confusing here because the hind one is on top of the front one, so you will think maybe it's on a track. And then we have a toe here, then we have here, and then we have this one here, and then we have this toes. Magic, hey? So who knows, we'll be lucky to see Shadaloo on foot. So for now, while we're still figuring things out, let's go to Jamie. Maybe she has some great news to tell us.
Colleen, I would really like it if you would find Shadaloo on foot for me, because then I can drive in and see her for the first time ever, and that would be a nice way to cheer me up. So I'm hoping that Colleen is successful. Obviously we're trying to help him as best we can, so I'm just looping around. I don't want to drive around too much close to those fresh tracks because I don't want to actually drive over them potentially. Obviously on foot you've got a much better chance of spotting tracks than you do on a vehicle. So it sounds as though tracks carried on moving to the east, which is good. Means she hasn't crossed over onto Arathusa, so that's where we're going to go. We're going to go slowly make our way along. Rexon's also been helping a little bit, and maybe we can figure out where she's been. I still haven't seen her. I really would like to. I've heard many a story about the lovely Shadaloo. Seb told me in no uncertain terms that as soon as you say her name, then you're guaranteed not to see anything on drive, which I feel is relatively ridiculous. I'm trying not to be superstitious like that, but if we see nothing on drive, then we'll know why it is, and then I'll have to stop from then on. I managed about a quarter of a drive after he told me that, before I let slip with her name. I'm just not very good at that sort of thing. So of course Tundi's been spending a little bit of time in this area. She had her impala kill right on what I would consider to be, having never seen Shadaloo before, but what I would consider to be the boundary of her territory with Shadaloo. So it's quite possible that Shadaloo went and sniffed, smelled Tundi, moved away, came back. It could also explain her backwards and forwards approach. Oh, it's very, very windy. This is where it gets a little bit scary, walking through the thick vegetation, because all you can hear is leaves rustling, and your ears actually start to let you down, because you can't distinguish between the rustle of an animal and the rustle of just leaves rustling about. There's a lot of the word rustle in one sentence. What do you call a boy sitting in the autumn leaves? Rustle. Remember that you can send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or in the comment section of YouTube. Just a reminder, because apparently you guys are very quiet this afternoon. So while you think of some interesting questions to ask us, or if you pop across to Lee, who I have no doubt will... Never mind. Go across to Lee before I lose my hat.
Thanks, Jamie. We would all love to see Shadaloo. I certainly would as well. Who wouldn't want to see at any time? Well, we want to see leopards, but we might have to see yellow-billed hornbills for a while. Here in front of us are no fewer than 3 yellow-billed hornbills on the ground. They normally may form monogamous pairs and mate for life. The yellow-billed hornbills, as well as the red-billed hornbills that we had earlier, and a few other bushveld hornbills here, we talked a little bit about nesting. And they have a fascinating habit of excavating. Well, they use an already excavated hole in the tree, and the female will go in there, and the male and the female will enclose the entrance to that nest, to that hole, with mud, and they leave just a thin slit, and she can stick her beak out and in so doing receive food from the male when he has the unenviable task of feeding himself and her and the chicks when they're born. So she lays her eggs and hatches her little chicks inside the protection of that hole in the tree, and she'll undergo a full molt when she's in there, and then peck her way out when the chicks are big enough to leave the nest. Those 2 hornbills off in the distance now have concentrated their efforts on a pile of elephant dung. Oh, not for long. Anyway, elephant dung is usually actually quite a nutritious place from a insect-eating bird like a hornbill. They'll be concentrating inside the elephant dung. Lots of dung beetle activity. There's the larval stages of other beetles as well. Anyway, we're at a little waterhole here, and this open area in front of us we thought maybe a bit more productive, but alas, it is empty. So we shall continue our search this afternoon. We didn't see any tracks. Georgie's asked, where in the bush would you find yellow-billed hornbills? Well, perhaps, Georgie, I can answer that question with a question. Where in the bush wouldn't you find a yellow-billed hornbill? They're on the ground, they're in the trees, flying in between the ground and the trees, flying between the trees and the trees. They're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. But their habit of choosing a nice big cavity in a dead tree as a nest site is the only kind of predictability in terms of where you expect to find them. And the great wildlife filmmaker of East Africa, Alan Root, sadly he passed away a couple of years ago, but Alan filmed a wonderful documentary many years ago. Just watch out here, BK. And he had hornbills nesting, and he was the first guy to get a camera inside a nest, and he actually excavated out the back of a tree and put a glass back to their nest, and put a camera in there, and you watched this whole process evolve over what I think took nearly 2 months. Quite an incredible documentary, well worth watching if you get the chance. What he did have to do was change the glass fairly often, because the kind of exposure to the light meant that the hornbills kept wanting to try and clear up the glass, and they kept attaching mud to the glass to try and block off that back side of the nest. Well, here we have up in the tree a European roller, I think, and it's being harassed by a lilac-breasted roller. No, it's a purple roller. So it's a purple roller, that bird there, a member of the roller family. All the rollers are magnificent. Not the best light on that purple roller, but he was being harassed by a lilac-breasted roller. The purple roller is not as common as the lilac-breasted roller, so nice to see one. Now that lilac-breasted roller has stopped his harassment for whatever reason. Usually it's to do with nest site competition, so like the hornbills, the rollers also use cavities in dead trees to nest, and there'd be a fair amount of competition around the potential nest that they're after. I've got a picture here in the book of the purple roller that we are looking at, and have a look at that for an impressive page in the bird book. That is most of the roller family. Look at them, all beautiful blue. And down number 5, the bottom left hand corner, that's what we are looking at. The purple roller, used to be called rufous crowned roller, has lovely rich indigo blues in his wing like that. Quite impressive are the roller family. I'm going to turn the page and you're going to see another 2 beautiful rollers. Broad-billed roller there, number 4, another beautiful member of the roller family. Blue-throated roller, West African rainforests and jungles. So this page here are more the rollers that we find. Excuse me. The number 3, the most common, lilac-breasted roller, that was what was harassing that bird. Yes, a comment that the rollers are so cute. They are indeed very cute birds indeed. I'm just going to have a sip of water. All the wind blowing all the dust around has settled in the back of my throat. They got their name, rollers, from their display flights. So both the males excuse me, and the females are both brightly colored and beautiful looking birds. And the males, in order to attract females, will roll and tumble and somersault in flight. And it's quite an aerobatic display. Excuse me. So you don't see it often, but when you do see it, it can be some fairly impressive aerobatics. Excuse me. So we're going to continue on, and you're going to head back to Jamie.
Okay, So I have an update for you about the tracks for Shadaloo. We're going to check one last place, and then I'm going to let poor Owen film some animals and not just the back of my head. Because I've been quite focused, just because I know that Shadaloo often makes only brief appearances on Djuma before wandering off. And there's a good chance that that's what she's going to do this afternoon. So I've been trying to track her quite quickly. Those tracks were fresh. And Rexon's picked up on her tracks coming in this direction. So we're just going to check one last spot, and then we'll stop for things like impalas and rhodas and so on. So I've just got to loop round on this road. Rexon says that it looks as though she was hunting the impala in this direction. So he's lost her tracks for now. Obviously, when a leopard is walking casually on a road, it's a lot easier to track them than when they are running or even stalking, because when they stalk, they shuffle around. They don't necessarily they don't necessarily lift their foot up immediately. That's what I'm trying to say. They shuffle. They move it from side to side, so it becomes obscured and it becomes very difficult to actually track a stalking leopard. So we're just going to check here. Sorry, Impala. Well, you're beautiful. We'll get back to you later. Have you seen a leopard? No. No. Not concentrating on leopards at the moment. The male impala are totally one-track minded right now. We are now really truly upon the point of the proper breeding season. Oh, but that's so cute. I can't drive past that. I just can't. We won't miss Shadaloo because of 5 minutes. We might, but... Hello. Hello. Yes, you were the ears. Were you cute? Yes, you are. That's so lovely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kudu. And the little ones were watching us with their massive radar-like ears. And now the attention of now the only one focusing on us is this female here. That's lovely. I'm going to stay here for a little bit longer, sorry. I'm going to stick around, and because this is nice, it's a nice opportunity to see kudu. Last kudu we saw was the one that Tlalamba was trying to pull up into a tree. So it's nice to see these chaps around. There's also a male that I can see behind the bushes. So you can I don't think you can see him now. He is going to pop out at some point, I imagine. They're such lovely antelope. They really, really are. Truly elegant. Long-limbed and sort of almost like fashion models, or catwalk models. And they've even got a very graceful stride when they walk. It's also worthwhile when you're tracking a leopard in the way that we are, getting close to where her last tracks were seen. So it's also always a good idea to stop and have a look and gauge the behavior of the animals around an area. Are they looking nervous? Although, to be honest, it's a little bit unfair to try and judge their behavior now, because remember how I spoke about this weather being a bit scary for bushwalk? Well, it's much scarier for the antelope that have to watch out for leopards or various other predators. Oh, that male. Now, and just to the right of that marula tree is currently tracking a tree. There he goes. There we go. So there's actually 2 males here, and the one is displaying to the other, warning him away from the females. Thanks so much, Rex. I'll keep following up around this area. Maybe we get lucky. Okay, copy. Thanks. Did you drive Mendoza or not? Copy. Thanks, Rex. Okay. Well, with this lovely collection of kudu, we're going to carry on searching, just in case Shadaloo is about to cross. Rexon's told me she hasn't yet, which means we're in with a chance. While we attempt to find her, let's go across to Colleen, who's got a very similar mission in mind.
Yes, we are still here on the Bushwalk. We're not lucky yet to see Shadaloo, but we saw this beautiful mushroom here. I don't know its name. I haven't seen it before, and the coloration, they're more like a leopard. You can see they have some spots and some white color, some tawny color, some brown color. It's beautiful indeed. And what's so amazing about this mushroom is that it's growing just on top of this branch of this plant called jasmine. It's a plant that crawls. And then these mushrooms, my granny told me that they are poisonous. I don't have to eat them, but there are these ones that they grow big. I used to eat when I was in the bush, when I was still a kid. We used to go and just cover them with some rocks, avoiding the cattle to eat them. But these ones, they don't look delicious because they might be poisonous, and not every mushroom is consumable. I told you I'll be making Craigie to kneel this afternoon. This mushroom, I don't think it's edible, but it looks yummy because of the colors. It's not. Oh, look, Craigie. We have impalas here, just here. They're rotting. Amazing, hey? They nearly came straight at us. Nice one. This is the reason why predators like lions and leopards, they go for impalas, especially this time of the year, because they don't concentrate much on their surrounding. They think of mating. So the other great thing is that Craigie was using this. Craigie, before we go back to that mushroom, Craig was using this as a tripod stand, because this is a very heavy sand, nearly a rock, that is made by the termites. And I don't think it's still functioning because we found it here lying. Maybe it was kicked by an ellie. You know, elephants sometimes they tend to go to the termite mounds and take out their frustrations there, or sometimes they scratch themselves there, because this sand you find here, it's very soft. And what they do is they use their mucus and their droppings to make this great and durable material out of sand. Awesome, hey? What does it look like, Craig? Sometimes I think these things, they look like, you know, when you look at the moon with your camera. So I'll be moving forward. Maybe I'll see Shadaloo hunting those impalas because they don't concentrate much around themselves. So let's go to Lee, who's also driving around.
Well, good luck, Colleen. I hope you can come up with the ultimate prize there. We're still on the hunt for some animals. It's been relatively quiet up until now, but of course, as you know, this is live and that can change any second. You can send through any questions and comments you have for us, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or use the YouTube chat stream. Most of the animals we've seen, including that forked drongo. DK, can you get him there on the dead branch over there? Have been keeping a low profile. Oh, where'd he go? Up into the air, more than likely hawking an insect. Question from Luna. What is my most memorable experience with animals? Well, I have so many. How long have you got? I would have to say that I've been very fortunate to do it a few times. That 1 hour that you spend with mountain gorillas, I rate as the most humbling wildlife experience, and I've done it in Uganda and I've done it in Rwanda, and it is exceptional. It's one of those sightings I was saying the other day, you think more about it before, during and after the sighting. An exceptionally powerful sighting, really incredible to spend time with big hairy humans. And straight in front of us, on top of that dead tree, he's also ducked off. It looked like a hawk eagle. Oh, well, now we'll never know unless we come across it again, but it was a big bird of prey sitting on top of the tree in front of us, and it ducked out the way. So you know, most of the birds and things that we've been seeing have actually had their heads down. In fact, he's landed again. He's off in the distance. We'll endeavor to get a little bit closer and try and get an ID on him for you. But yeah, most of the birds have had their heads down. We've also seen solitary impala, males on their own, and they're all in the thick bushes trying to sort of hide out of the way of the wind. Not ideal if you're a prey species these windy afternoons like it is now. It certainly counts to the predator's advantage, all of this wind, the trees moving and the sound of the wind in your ears are able to mask. BK, can you get a shot through there? No, let's reverse a little bit. Let's stall our car and then reverse a little bit. So we're looking at a raptor, one of the birds of prey, up in the top of that tree there. There. And it might be a martial eagle actually on first inspection. So yeah, that dark brown wings, dark back. I don't know if he's big enough to be a martial eagle. And a martial eagle normally has a little bit more of a crest on top of his head. I think this could be a black-chested snake eagle, though he's not sitting very snake eagle-like, and he's got feathers all the way down his legs. The snake eagles have... Oh, off he goes. The snake eagles have featherless legs. It could have been an African hawk eagle. Hard to say. He's disappeared now. I'd have to narrow him down without us seeing his chest or his front. We'd say either black-chested snake eagle or martial eagle or African hawk eagle would be my 3 guesses there. Any other comments would be welcome for the birders amongst the viewers. Always a bit of a challenge in the wind. You know, the eagles don't sit as proudly as they would normally, chest out, chin up. He had his head down into the wind, trying to escape the wind. My guess is it's probably Minanu. How do you tell a bird's gender? Well, there's a few ways that you can tell. In the birds of prey, we've just been looking at an eagle, the females are bigger. Not what you would think. So in the birds of prey, the females are bigger, and that theory behind that, or one of the theories behind that, is that the bigger female is a better incubator, so she has more body mass, more size to incubate eggs, the male being smaller. You know, the birds of prey often form monogamous pairs, so the male being smaller would be arguably a better hunter. He's a faster, more agile flyer. As a general rule across the bird world, certainly a lot of the passerines or perching birds, the males are brighter colored, so they've grown elaborate plumages in terms of color and size of feathers and crests and long tails, and that's to attract females, so that can often be a good giveaway. Sometimes the calls, so things, for example, like an Egyptian geese, so the female Egyptian goose, she honks, honk, 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 and the male hisses. Easy way to remember that, I often tell kids, is it's not really that different from being at home. Mom making quite a lot of noise, moaning at Dad for doing things wrong, and Dad going shh, shh, shh. So you can tell by size, you can tell by color, you can tell by call, and sometimes you can also tell by behavior. So males will rather James Richards said it looked like an African hawk eagle. Yes, sirree. I would tend to agree with you, James Richard. The only thing that made me doubt that it might not have been is we so often see African... Oh, hold on. Going on a road less traveled here. Rusty's ploughing on fearlessly. The only thing that I might doubt there, Richard, is that African hawk eagles, we always see them in pairs. Well, the vast majority of time we see them in pairs, and that was one bird. They could have easily been temporarily situated or separated. But yeah, I think the fact that what we did see of the top of its head is it's more of a flattened head, as both the marshal and the black-chested snake eagle have more crests. So yeah, I would tend to agree with you there, sir. Well done. So we were talking about bird behavior and be able to sex birds based on their behavior. So males would generally be the ones showing off, so like the rollers, so the male and female rollers look identical, but it's the males that do this display flight where they tumble and somersault and roll, and that's where they get their name from. So that's how you tell the difference between birds. You're going to go back and join Jamie now, who's still searching.
I'm on Mendoza Road, which is, as most of you know, it's this new road that sort of was created while I was in the Mara, and so far I've had absolutely zero luck on, ever. I have never seen an animal on this road. I think I've seen one impala. That's a lie. I think I've seen one impala. I had such high hopes for it at one point, but unfortunately it's never quite delivered. But this is where Rexon thinks Shadaloo is, and I'm obviously not going to question him on that. Now here we are, driving very, very slowly on Mendoza Road. All I can see is the tracks from the enthusiastic runners from earlier today, but no leopard tracks. Chandra, you were running this afternoon, huh?
Yeah.
There was nothing on this road. Okay, so she's moved about in the middle of the day. Alice, there's no tracks of her cubs. Alice wants to know if Shadaloo will have the hookadulus with her. The hookadulus, of course, being her cubs. And I haven't seen them, obviously. I haven't seen Shadaloo either. If she makes a kill, she will go back and fetch the cubs from wherever she's hidden them, and she'll take them to the kill itself. We had 2 sets of tracks, backwards and forwards, but further to the north of this position, but there were no sign of any cub tracks, and I haven't picked up on, Rexon hasn't picked up on any doubling back of any kind. So she could make a kill, go fetch her cubs and come back, but at the moment there's no evidence that her cubs are with her. I think so far the only person to see the hookadulus was Tshala, if I'm not mistaken, right on the boundary. It's questionable also whether or not she'd bring the little hookadulus onto Djuma, this far into Djuma, if Tingana were calling. But I'm pretty sure she'd be confident enough to bring them here, because Hukumuri does patrol this area regularly. So obviously she wants to keep the cubs wherever there's a male leopard that thinks he is the father. It really is irrelevant as to whether or not he is. If he thinks he is, if he's mated with a female, those cubs are safe. So she wants to keep them. We don't know if she's mated with Tingana, but we probably would have heard if she did. We probably would have found them, unless maybe he disappeared into a different area. With her, I think we would have heard about it. So far the most likely suspect when it comes to paternity is Hukumuri, and she will know that too, and she'll be keeping them in this general vicinity. I've not seen one track coming out. Nothing. So she might well still be in here between this road and Zoe's road. We're going to do one more loop once we back out onto Balanites, and then we'll go check around again. But we'll be slower this time. We won't rush anywhere. We'll stop for all sorts of things. At least we know she hasn't crossed, as far as we can tell. Funnily enough, and a very warm welcome to H. Solomon, who is watching, as far as we know, for the very first time. H. Solomon wants to know if we have any snakes here. And the reason I said funnily enough was because we did actually see a snake a little bit earlier. Unfortunately, it was one of the ones that is phenomenally quick moving. And it shot across the road in front of me and then went back across behind me. Owen actually spotted it the second time round. So we do get snakes. We've had a few snake sightings. We've had a few nice puff adder sightings recently. We had of course, truly amusing incident of the sand snake that tried to slither up Tristan's trouser legs. We have not had, touch wood so far, any serious incidents with venomous snakes in our camp. That doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but often you find that mambas and cobras, particularly cobras, you find they tend to be drawn to a human area because humans, of course, make a mess, and mess brings rodents, and rodents bring snakes. You often find in camps I've worked in the past, that we've had to remove a spitting cobra on the odd occasion, which we haven't had to do in a long time. We moved a puff adder a few weeks ago from the vehicle bay where we park the cars at night, and I had a spotted bush snake come out of the rain covers. That was actually really, really nice. It was a stunning sighting. A spotted bush snake is a completely harmless snake. It's a very tranquil snake, very, very relaxed. And as we put the roof on, because it was raining, we put the roof on the car and it came down out and it actually went all the way across my arm, across my back. And then I tried to very carefully transport it to the side of the road, and it promptly fell off. I felt a bit guilty, but it was fine. No damage done. No harm done at all. I hate this car. This is Tristan's car. Doesn't idle properly. I don't know why Tristan is so fond of this car. Hey, Rusty. Sorry, Rusty. It's exactly the wrong idling speed for me, personally, the speed I like to go at. Okay, around the block we go. My word. Problem with this sort of weather. It sends a lot of the animals into hiding. We're driving around searching for something, and Lee is doing exactly the same, searching presumably for something else.
Hate's a strong word, Jamie. I hate Rusty. Don't hurt her. We're in Wendy and we love driving Wendy. Yes, we do. So having a short wheelbase to drive around for a couple of weeks is right up my alley. So I have a soft spot. No, my short wheelbase.
Sorry about that, everyone. Apparently Lee has vanished off your screens. Never fear. We're here to scoop everything up and put it back in its place. This is the last track of Shadaloo, going in, disappearing that way. So we've done a full loop, and now we're really just working on hope more than anything else. The Bushwalk team, I don't know if they're still planning on following up on these tracks, or if not. You can still see our tracks here in the road. I'm actually not sure what happened to Colleen. I think they're probably still making their way into this area. I've, of course, never walked Shadaloo, so I've got no idea what she's like on foot, but I have heard she's a lovely leopard and she's quite relaxed. Okay. Well, speaking of bushwalk, I imagine that they're strolling about somewhere not too far away from me. Let's go and find out whether they're going to carry on looking for the leopard or if they have other things in mind.
Yes, we are still searching and searching and searching. But what we have found now, it's a plant called baboon's tail. It's easily identified because of the shape, like a baboon's tail. It looks very dry, hey? Wait for it until it blooms. The best plant you've ever seen. And you might think that it's dead, but it's not. There's and they have these sharp edges here. And they are bluish in color. Craig, is it blue or grey? Blue. I'll go with blue. So we are still searching for Shadaloo. We saw a vulture perching somewhere around this block. Then we thought maybe you might just go there and check, because maybe you might be lucky to see a leopard feeding or a carcass, who knows. But we were not lucky. So Herbivore is still searching and looking for other signs. Maybe you will be lucky, but in the meantime we are not It's heavy. Heavy's whistling. And he said we must stop here. I'm sure he's suspecting something. Because in the bush we have to communicate, whistling or doing this, tapping your hands. Says we might come. Because this place is thick, and then we have to be extra careful. Here before? Ooh, Craigie, long internally. Come here, Craigie. Come and see here. This is a scrub head carcass. And check this out. And this is fresh. This is fresh. And this is what Heavy saw, because he doesn't want us to maybe corner a leopard or be in danger. So as you can see, this is the leg of a squab hay, and this is fresh. The meat is still tender. Yeah. So this means luck. We are so lucky. Who knows, next we will see a leopard. So we'll follow up on these tracks, because Heavy left the spot and following up on those fresh tracks. But for now, let's go to Lee and see what he's doing.
I do hope it brings us some luck, Colleen. We need it this afternoon. We had a few gremlins while we were talking earlier, and I was talking about our beloved car, Wendy, and how much we love short wheelbase Land Rovers. I don't mind a Land Cruiser. The old Toyota Land Cruiser versus Land Rover debate can go on until all hours of the morning. But I do have a special affinity for Land Rovers, especially short wheelbase Land Rovers. My wife and I bought a short wheelbase Land Rover called Peggy Sue. She was a blue short wheelbase Defender, and after our wedding we didn't have the time to do a nice honeymoon. We just went away for a few days, but then I two safaris to guide in Tanzania back to back, and they were two short safaris. I think they were 8 or 9 days each. We said, we have the time, why don't we drive to Tanzania and take a long honeymoon? And that's what we did. So 11,000 kilometers, so that's about 8,000 miles, and she did not give us 1 day of travel. I can see the Land Cruiser fans rolling their eyes, and we do miss her. We had to sell her. She was getting a bit old and troublesome, as old Land Rovers do. And I'm not very sentimental, but my wife is. But I must admit, being back in a short wheelbase Land Rover is heaps of fun. So whether you're a Land Cruiser, a Toyota Land Cruiser fan, or a Land Rover fan, you have to acknowledge that a Land Rover is better off-road and can go more places. In terms of pure 4x4 ability, there's not much that touches a Land Rover. They are, of course, quite temperamental, and they do, well, someone said to me once, a Land Rover is not a car, it's a hobby. Because unless you're a part-time mechanic, there's no point in owning one. And yes, you do need to spend a fair amount of time under the hood. In fact, I always do chuckle in the car park every time I come and grab one of the Land Rovers for drive, either in the morning or the afternoon. You have a look underneath when we're doing the checks, and there are numerous drip marks and puddles of oil that come out of the Land Rover engine. But as long as you check the levels every day and keep them topped up, and yeah, they're only about, well, only about 20 things that go wrong with Land Rovers, but usually the Land Rover mechanics become very expert at telling you what to expect or knowing what to expect when a Land Rover comes limping in on the back of a low bed. Of course, Land Rover don't make Defenders anymore, much to the royal family's horror, but I did enjoy seeing the new adverts for the new Defenders, which are much excitement in the press. I don't know if they have been released or whether they've leaked pictures, but in classic Land Rover fashion, the first picture of the new Land Rover Defender is of the Queen herself driving a Defender with her scarf wrapped around her head and a couple of corgis in the passenger seat next to her. I thought that was very cool. Ben asking, do you get a long wheelbase Land Rover? Yes, Ben, you do. You get a 90, so that is the distance, 90 inches, or I think it's 90 inches between the axles of this short wheelbase. You get a 110, which is the standard issue, so the vast majority of Land Rovers are 110, and then you get a 130, and that's like a double cab, extended cab. That's an extra long Land Rover. So with technology on the go, there are game viewers in the vicinity here that are powered by electricity. So they have big batteries and they're dead quiet, which is absolutely fantastic for game viewing, I think. These are petrol Land Rovers. The vast majority of Land Rovers you come across are diesel engines, but diesel, as you know, can be quite noisy, and especially for filming. Right now, I mean, well, there's a lot of wind blowing around, but right now you can hardly hear the sound of the petrol engine idling along. But those electric cars, and they're putting the big battery packs in the bonnets of Land Cruisers, and with a range of about 45-50 kilometers, perfect for game drive. So Jamie on Rusty, over to you.
I know. Hate was probably a little bit of a strong term for Rusty. I don't actually hate her. I just prefer Wendy. There's something about Wendy that we just get each other. No, don't. What? No. I hate this weather, though. That I do. Nothing stays still. I was trying to stop for those male impala, and they've all panicked and run off. And you can't blame them. Imagine how terrifying it must be. We've often spoken about this. How... Stop it. Okay, stop it. Stay. How terrifying it must be for an animal that relies almost purely on its hearing for, and sight as well. I mean, impala are really difficult to sneak up upon. I've tried it many times to try and test what it must be like to be a leopard. I've tried to creep up close to impala. I have never succeeded. They are so alert. But imagine how disturbing it must be to hear leaves rustling all the time. You can't rely on your sense of smell or hearing. There's movement all the time as the leaves blow around, and you can understand why they are so skittish. And just bear with me. I'm going to reposition so we can see them properly again out from behind the bushes. But while I do that, I'm going to go get hold of Lee and just find out where he is, because I've just got an update from one of my friends at one of the neighboring reserves. So I just want to see where he is. Lee. Lily. Silence. Ah, there he is. I always get him on the second go. What's your position? Okay, copy, Lee. Kochava is on Chitwa, on Gowrie, Main, very close to Cheetah Cut Line. I thought maybe you'd be a bit closer, but I think we're about equidistant at this stage. There's a female leopard on Chitwa, very close to Cheetah Cut Line, if you want to make your way there. No problem. I will make my way. I'm at Treehouse now, so it shouldn't take me too long, if you're happy with that. Cool. Should we go see Kochava, folks? Let's go see Kochava. Sorry, male impala. You are lovely, but we're going to have to go and fight our way into a sighting on Chitwa. So we're going to leave you for now, and we'll go see what she's up to. I haven't seen Kochava in a while, so I'm okay with that. I might not have managed with Shadaloo, but I am going to go and find Kochava for you. All right. While we race off, and it'll take us a little while to get there, off you pop across to Colleen to find out what insect life he's going to enthusiastically teach you all about.
Yes, we have something incredible happening here. We've stopped a little bit while we were still following those tracks because we saw this precious thing happening here. These small little insects, which are called the harvest termites. They are still busy scissoring some grasses here, preparing for winter. They have to work all summer, gathering some grasses, piece of grasses, and they take them inside there. And these ones, they don't operate like the fungi growing termites, which they build these huge mounds. These ones, they only create a hole, then they dig and drill down, then that's where they stay. Normally we see them on your lawn or garden. And they also have queen, soldiers and workers. And the size difference tells whether this is a worker or a soldier. And they've stopped a little bit here because it's getting windy. But some are still outside here, still scissoring, just like this one, Craig. I don't know where to find it. See this one? Yeah, let's try that one because it's still scissoring there. It's it. See. It's what they do all day. Amazing, eh? And the coloration is different. Yes, and the coloration is different because the fungi growing termites, they have this yellow, orangey like head. And the body is white, and these ones are brown in color. So they camouflage very well within their habitat. And this shows that we might see something like an aardvark, who knows, because they love feeding on these ones, or a pangolin. This one just came out to collect a stick there. And look how powerful this is. Look at how long this grass is and the size. Oh, there. It's trying by all means to grab that and put it down into a hole there. Zinzida, these are crazy looking guys. Yes, indeed. And if you can look at the way they lift these long pieces of grasses, and if you can look at their size difference, it's so amazing to see such thing happening. Awesome. And that's a piece of sawtooth love grass. And that one is still patiently scissoring and trying to cut that grass there. Shame. But it won't give up because he knows it has to go down there and survive winter. Heavy is calling our name. Let me stand up and follow those tracks. We'll be losing light soon, so it won't be easy for us to see these tracks. And we have to rely on some other calls like alarm calls. So I won't give up until it gets dark. But for now, let's go to Lee, who's also searching.
Thanks, Colleen. Well, we've nearly jumped out of our skin. These rutting impala. We were driving on quite a bumpy road slowly in quite thick bush. Well, I nearly jumped out of my skin. I don't know about BK. But a roaring impala ram came running very close to us and let out a huge roar that did give me a little bit of a fright. So this rutting activity really reaching a crescendo now. The vast majority of mating behavior happens now in May between the full moons, and we almost bang in the middle of the two full moons now in May. We here now at Buffelshoek Dam, and there is nothing moving around at the dam. We were hoping to show you something at least. The water, as you can see, is drying up every single day. These hot, windy days certainly don't help, and we're going into winter now, and the situation is not fantastic. It's going to be a long, dry winter. BK, I don't know if you can get, there's a little three-band, oh, where'd he go? He's just disappeared. There was a three-banded plover there, and he's disappeared. There's a blacksmith lapwing at the back there. A little bit to the right, back. There, if you zoom in now, there he is, blacksmith lapwing. Never far from the water's edge are blacksmith lapwing. He'll be concentrating his diet. Oh, there's the three-banded plover. How about that for luck? In the bottom of your screen is the little three-banded plover. Hard at work acquiring himself some dinner. He'll be going through the mud there. He's got a fairly slender bill, and he'll be picking out little water or aquatic animals. There'll be maybe little midges, the larval stage of some insects, perhaps some of the smaller crustaceans, maybe little snails. Three-banded plover now playing hide and seek. While he hides, we'll look at the blacksmith lapwing, who diet-wise will be after much the same as the little three-banded plover. Real Dan, have animal populations decreased since I've become a guide? Yes, they have. The IUCN has just declared very recently in the last few days that there's more than 1 million species now threatened with extinction, and yes, conservation is under huge strain at the moment as humans develop and populate this world. What we're doing is squeezing the animals into smaller and smaller little islands. So these game reserves and national reserves, national parks are getting pressurized on the edges by more and more demand for space by humans. So yes, animal numbers have decreased in the last 19 years. But I think if you had to look back over the last sort of 200 years, there's been quite a rapid deterioration in a lot of wildlife populations throughout the world. The human population, of course, has done the complete opposite and skyrocketed, increased almost exponentially. And we were talking about it earlier today. I think it's the feeding of all of us that is causing the biggest headaches in the world. Feeding, if you're a blacksmith lapwing, doesn't give you a headache at all. Quite fun. You can squish around in the mud and feel it ooze between your toes. That's very sticky mud that he's in now. It looks like he's using his beak, gleaning something off the surface there. Something small. Quite hard work. You can imagine, you know what it's like to be walking through soft mud. Not easy. Every footstep is an effort. So whatever he's after there must be worth the effort. So the vast majority of wild animals' time is spent looking for food and feeding. And it's all an energy equation balance. The energy that you expend looking for food must not increase the energy derived or obtained from that food that you're looking for and obtaining. So you and I can wake up and set our watch almost to meal times, and meals land in our lap, whereas out here, the little three-banded plover and the blacksmith lapwing are doing what animals spend the vast majority of their days doing: feeding. And you never know when or where your next meal is going to be. So when the going is good, you better fill up the tank. Quite a good example of little niche habitats here. So you've got both birds occupying this muddy pond, and they are each going to be feeding on a slightly different food source, and hence they can live side by side. And we see that a lot in the animal world. Lots of symbiosis, everybody getting along. Very nice scene. Well, let's carry on searching. The wind all of a sudden has died down. Maybe that'll change our luck this afternoon. Let's hope that it does. You are now going to join Paulie with a creepy crawly on the walk.
Yes, we are still trying our level best to follow these tracks, but we saw this beautiful and colorful spider, which is called a golden opweb spider. But what's so interesting, we saw something again around its web. What made us stop here are these spiders here, which are called the dewdrop spiders. Not really sure whether Craig will get that, because it's windy and the web is moving left, right, center. But he will try his level best. And what they do, these dewdrop spiders, they are kleptoparasites. Means they will steal from their host. What they do is they will build their web, extending it from their host web. And then they will wait for whatever that is caught there in that host web, and then they will steal it and it will go back to their web. Interesting. So they are waiting patiently there to have an opportunity to get maybe a a meal before it gets dark. Craig, are you winning there? Because the web is moving, they are also moving. And remember, if they are caught in this web of a golden orb spider, they might be devoured by this spider here. It's a female, huge, colorful, and the males are small and brown in color. So it's been moving around because it's windy and it's disturbed a little bit, thinking that maybe there might be a predator lurking around. But we are still searching. For now, while we're looking at our spider, let's go to Lee.
So I'll forgive you for thinking that it's a tortoise, because we are on land and it looks like a tortoise, but it is a terrapin. And terrapins are usually associated with water. We're not far from Bushwalk Dam, but that dam where we were a little while ago, you saw how it was drying up, and not surprising to see the terrapins moving home. This is a marsh terrapin. They belong to the family of chelonians. Their closest relatives, of course, are tortoises on land and turtles in the sea, in saltwater. So terrapins are freshwater chelonians, tortoises are land chelonians, and turtles are sea chelonians. Anyway, he's just ducked off the road there now. Let's try and catch up with him. He's not a very big one. He can probably fit quite easily into my hand. Can you get him there? BK, he's now stopped in the grass. No, to the left of that. There he is, at the bottom of the screen. Wow, he blends in pretty well. There he is. You can see his little head and eyes now. Blink, blink. Look at those eyes. Beautiful patterns on the marsh terrapins' heads. You can see some fresh mud, some wet mud on his back. And yeah, despite the fact that he's out of his usual habitat of the water, he's quite comfortable out here, and he's going off in search of greener pastures, more water. Although, out here, this time of year, I think where he was in Bushwalk Dam would be his best bet if he just sat tight. So they are reptiles, or terrapins. All chelonians are reptiles, and as a result they are poikilothermic, which is a fancy word and means that they rely on the sun to regulate their body temperature. They rely on an external source of heat, whereas you and I and all mammals rely on internal sources of heat. We rely on our metabolism and food to regulate our body temperature. And what you find this time of year, as it cools off and as their food becomes less abundant, they go into a state of estivation, which is very similar to hibernation. Hibernation more associated with change in temperature and those drastic conditions in the more cold parts of the world where snow and ice prevail in the winter. That's hibernation. But out here where it does get colder, but nowhere near as cold as that, it's more a reaction of less and less food availability, and it's a state of dormancy. Estivation is a state of dormancy, just like hibernation, where an animal like a terrapin would dig its way into a riverbank or into the mud next to a lake or pan or dam, and it would slow its metabolism right down and bide its time until the rains come back. And usually, in this part of the world, that's towards the end of the year, perhaps October. Sam asks how strong a terrapin's shell is. Well, I'm not quite sure how to say it's as strong as a... Well, I think if I stood in it, so I'm 90 kgs, which is just under 200 pounds. If I stood on one this size, I'm not going to, I promise you, I would probably break its shell. So this is quite a small one, but the bigger ones would be able to withstand me at nearly 200 pounds standing on them. So very strong indeed, surprisingly strong, that shell. Lions often, out of inquisitiveness, usually the youngsters will investigate, and they try and bite and can't quite get purchase on something like that. It would fit in the mouth and could be bitten, I think, by lions. But that shell is surprisingly strong. Good protection from the elements. And you're going to head back to Jamie now and hear some updates from her side.
All right, so we've arrived at where Kochava, in theory, was, unfortunately. But I've been trying to get hold of any of the vehicles on the radio, and as you know, sometimes our game drive radios don't work terribly well on Chitwa. No one can hear me, and I can't hear anyone, and they've clearly all left her, because I can see where the off-road tracks come off the road, but they've clearly left her. And I don't know if that means she went north onto Torchwood. I can't see any tracks going north, but there's a possibility I might have missed the... There she is. Never mind. Hey! Well, hey! Hello, pretty girl. You are a sight for sore eyes. Beautiful. Perfect. Oh, this is gonna be pretty. So pretty. Are you still nervous, girl? I haven't been up close to her in a while. Kochava obviously means scared, means nervous, because in her early youth, she was quite a nervous leopard. She's now older, more experienced. She's 5 years old now or so, I would say. And hello, gorgeous. You've got that proper Tundi look on your face this afternoon. Is the wind getting you down? You and me both. So for those of you that don't know, this is Kochava. She is Tundi's daughter, and she has sort of occupied the territory a little bit to the south and to the east of the areas that Tundi's been hanging around in at the moment. Obviously, she's currently on Chitwa. That's why you can see there's a mast behind her. And I really don't like that mast, so I think I might move in a little bit. Oh, gorgeous girl. She might move for us. That's such a big sigh, Kochava. What have you got to say for yourself? She, of course, had cubs, or was seen with suckle marks a few months ago. Unfortunately, those suckle marks didn't materialize into wonderful cub sightings, so it's strongly suspected that she lost those cubs, which would mean that round about now she would be due for a second litter. Here's something about Tundi's offspring. It's that ears to the side face. That ears flatten to the side. I don't know what it is. Tumba used to do it. Tlalamba, I actually haven't seen her doing it as often. But Kochava and Tumba, always. Was that nice and cozy, girl? I didn't expect her to be on top of a termite mound. I really didn't. Littlefoot says that she looks fed up. Yes, she does rather. She does look a little bit fed up, but that's actually just Kochava's natural expression. Something that I fully sympathize with. I often get caught up in my own thoughts and I come across as fed up when in reality I'm just thinking about life, which actually will probably make you fed up no matter who you are. But Kochava does have a fed-up expression on her face, always. She's got droopy ears. In fact, of all of Tundi's offspring, I feel as though it's the most pronounced with Kochava. Only way I can get that antenna out of the shot is to actually move forward, and I'm worried about her. She seems all right, though, so let's give it a go. I'll try move forward a little bit just so that we can get rid of that. Hey, girl? You okay with that? You look like you're going to move. I would. Hey, you good? Are we good? There we go. Thank you, girl. It's as close as I'll push it. With the leopard, I don't know that well. I remember seeing Kochava for the very first time on Cheetah Plains years ago, and she was only about 3 years old. No, she must have been even younger. She must have been about 2 at that stage. And I was told she was Inkanyeni, and I was looking at this leopard thinking it doesn't look like Inkanyeni, but she's beautiful nevertheless. Doesn't look like the pictures I've seen of her. And at that point, I don't think Kochava even had her name yet. She was named by Shanae, who used to work at Nkoro. It's a good name. Kochava, I think, is a really, really lovely name. It's got such a beautiful ring to it. Shami says that she also has long whiskers like a tlalamba. Yep, I completely see what she's talking about. All leopards have beautiful whiskers, but tlalamba really does have a fine set of beautiful white whiskers, and so does Kochava. She always looks so sad. I know, girl. Don't worry. Everything's gonna be fine. Pretty cat. I mean, really. She looks like she should be in Winnie the Pooh as Eeyore. I don't blame her, though. This wind is miserable. I'm sure she wants to just shelter behind the termite mound. Why are you sitting on the top? It looks thoroughly uncomfortable. And there we have it. We actually got lucky there. I thought for 1 second that we weren't going to find her, but we did. There she is. That was a really, really nice sprite. At least I've given Owen something to film, thank goodness. That's a massive relief. I was starting to worry he was going to have to film the back of my head the entire afternoon. Plus, of course, we have a Wild Earth Kids Drive a little bit later, which means that we'd love to show them animals, ideally. All right, well, Genre and I have just had a discussion about the sunset. I say it's nice, but it's pretty average. Lee clearly disagrees, so does Genre. Let's go and have a look at Lee's sunset and tell me what you think.
Another beautiful Juma sunset. Isn't that pretty? Well done, Jamie. Good result there, my friend. And I hope you've all been enjoying Kochava. We're enjoying the beautiful colours painted on the western horizon there by the setting sun, which is behind those clouds now. And if we zoom back out, we notice some rays of the sun. And we'll see them shortly radiating up excuse me, from the sun. They're very faint, and towards the top half of your screen now you'll see them up there radiating out. Those are called crepuscular rays, and those are the rays of the sun's last light as it disappears behind the mountains and the western horizon. So it's the sunlight shining through the gaps, the irregular horizon, as well as the clouds low down. And they sometimes, you can't see it tonight, but sometimes you can see them extending right the way across the sky to the east. And they bend, or they look like they bend. Of course, it's the area of parallax. Those are parallel lines. But the area of parallax, which is the perception that train tracks, if you're standing on a railway line, train tracks getting closer together the further away they are. So it's just a distance and perception thing. And the same thing's happening here. So those lines, those crepuscular ray lines, are actually parallel. Crepuscular, from the French word the crépuscule, which means dawn or dusk. One of the many French words the English have stolen and added to their dictionary. And it is a wonderful opportunity in the bush. There's hardly a day when you're out here that you don't enjoy the sunrise and the sunset. I think it's such a busy time of day in the real world when you're either driving to the office or heading from work to the gym or doing something work or family related. But out here in the bush, we seldom fail on a daily basis to sit back, relax and enjoy these minutes as the sky changes colour. Really, really pretty. I think that if somebody had to paint that, I'm not sure what colours they'd use or what colours they would attempt to use. Always amazing watching as the colours change. Always amazing after such a hot day to quickly feel how cold it gets. Clouds Gate, a question: would the rays also depend on the dust in the atmosphere? I think they certainly would. The more dust there is, the more visible this phenomenon is. And yeah, the more dust in the air, especially coming up to this time of year as it gets drier and dustier, and also smoke makes the sunrise and sunset more beautiful in terms of colour. Although I have seen those crepuscular rays on very clear summer days in terms of, quite undusty conditions. But I'm sure that dust particles in the air would enhance those rays. Indeed. Very nice. Well, we are going to continue our search. Have about an hour or so to go, and I know we're going to welcome some kids very shortly. Let's see what we can find for the kids and the adults in the next hour. So we are going to head back to Colleen, who's on foot.
Well done finding Kochava. I only saw Kochava a couple of times, and I was lucky to see Kochava while I was live. But the problem was, I was with her for a few times when I was live, because she went deep into a low signal area. But I was lucky to spend time with the cat. So I think we decided to head back home, because as you can see, it's getting dark. And be on foot in the darkness, it's not good sometimes, because we don't have IR light or flare with us here. If we did, we might be walking around these thickets. So maybe, who knows, the last minute cats they love showing themselves to us. So maybe we'll be seeing Shadaloo or the hawk, because we are still at their territory right now. Hopefully we'll see them. Amazing, hey? Yes. And I love the bushwalk, hey? I'm not saying I don't like driving, but the bushwalk is especially when I'm with my lucky socks. So let's go back to Kochava while I'm walking back home.
Which way around? What's the problem?
So we've come back into the area where Shalamba was. We failed to find her this morning. We failed to find her or the carcass. Remember that Kudu calf that she caught yesterday? So we're just taking a long shot. In all likelihood she has moved out of the area, but we were in the vicinity, so we'd pop in for one final look around here. Usually as the sun sets and the temperatures drop, we expect to see a bit more movement from the leopards. So if she has been lying full belly under a shady tree for the day, she might get up and start feeding again now. She was off to our right here in the bush here somewhere. Shelley, do all cars in Safari Live have names? Yes, they do. All our game viewers have names, Shelley. I'm in Wendy, and I know Jamie's in Rusty, and Jigger is the third member of our fleet. We just stopped here while we were answering car name questions because BK thought he smelt something. I'm just going to back up a little bit. Let's go back. That smell we had this morning was of the intestines or the partly digested stomach contents of that kudu. Quite a pungent odor, but we never found the carcass or the leftovers of the carcass, and we could be smelling that now. It was about here, hey BK? Yeah, so lots of wind swirling, so if we do smell something, it can be a little confusing. We're going to say goodbye to the viewers now and switch over to the kids' drive.